The first episode of season 2 of Unfabulous is the Rhinoceros in the middle of the room. And I feel like it's this play on the term the elephant in the room, like a really awkward moment between a lot of people. And it's funny because that's kind of how this show goes anyway. It's just all about being awkward. And this one's really interesting because it's more so about grief than a lot of other things. Like the first season ended on Addie and Randy Klein getting together, but this episode is about her maintaining that relationship while also dealing with a death in the family. We get to know Addie's great aunt, and she's like really eccentric with a fake buck tooth in the center. Yeah, she's just really annoying and always in Addie's business.
Addie, you are too precious. Oh, cannolis. They're my favorite. Ooh.
Addie is really nervous about being in her first relationship, which is super relatable. I feel like this season is really good at being more so about the teenage experience, specifically in a relationship, as the first one's more about getting ready for a relationship. This one scratched every itch I feel like I was wondering at this age when it came to relationships. Specifically, Addie has an issue where it's like she's too uncomfortable communicating with Randy Klein, so she runs away from him at every possible opportunity.
Addie? I can't hear you! I'm running away!
That is 100% teenager. Like, I relate to that a lot. And then when her aunt dies, she has the weirdest reaction out of everybody. Her parents are like, this is normal, like everybody grieves differently. But then she's like, I don't want to go to the funeral. We think it's because of this new relationship with Randy. And it does appear that way, but it feels like she's more so not wanting to grieve. And that's like the lesson in itself, is just like sometimes grief comes out in really weird ways that we don't always plan. Eventually, after all this avoidance, Addie does make a plan with Randy Klein to go to the basketball game. And of course, Zach and Gina think she's insane because she's just like, oh, I don't want to go to the funeral, and keeps dodging going to the funeral. She keeps seeing her aunt in a bunch of different like mirrors. She starts to appear in her life, making Addie seem like full-on cuckoo, which if she wasn't already. I really like how it's done. It's like trying to be super comical and yet somehow it's such a serious topic. That's why it's like kind of funny to watch Addie like go through all this. It does make her look like a horrible character to be like, no, I don't want to go to my aunt's funeral. I just want to be with my new boyfriend. And it feels ingenuine. Like, I don't even know if this relationship is real. But at the end, when they actually do end up going to this basketball game, which I don't know why Addie's parents didn't step in and be like, no, you're going. She just somehow got to the basketball game. She starts seeing her aunt and realizes that maybe she hasn't grieved and has a big explosion in front of everybody. And then she ends up going to the funeral, which is nice. But the only thing is, we never get to see the funeral. We just kind of hear all about it and everything's ramped up, and then we just cut to them coming back from it. Normal sitcom stuff. I guess they just didn't want to pay for a set. But overall, the episode was really good. Addie's denial, I feel like, is such a relatable trope, especially as a teenager hearing about these things for the first time. It's a little unlikable for her character to not want to respect her dead aunt. By the end, she does kind of come around, so it's easy to kind of excuse this as like childhood immaturity, you know? And something interesting too that they like to establish for the second season is that Addie doesn't have braces anymore. And they say that it's because her aunt actually left her some money so she could get them off. And I don't know how that works. Can somebody put it in the comments? Because I don't know how braces work. All around, really crazy opening to a new season. And I'm excited to see how these relationships progress, but I am still confused. Whatever, let's move on to the second episode. This next episode is really genuine. This is definitely something I wish I had when I was a teenager, or at least I watched. Obviously, I was a teenager during this, but I never paid attention enough. It's called The Balancing Act because it's about Addie trying to manage her responsibilities now that she has this relationship. I like that the first episode was more the social awkwardness of a middle school relationship in general, and now we get to like, okay, what if she actually was devoted to this guy? And then you see the true teenager in Addie Singer. It comes out so wholeheartedly because it's about her juggling time with her friends and time with her relationship. And honestly, it's a tale as old as time. I feel like even as adults, we're still learning how to manage, keeping relationships and friendships all equidistant. Addie, though, becomes super unlikable to a degree that I've never experienced on a kid's show. Like, it's one thing to have, like, iCarly, Victorious, Drake, and Josh kind of be unlikable characters because they're, like, a little bit of a bully. They don't really care about what the other person thinks. But Addie is kind of coming from a genuine place and is like, no, like, my boyfriend is actually way more important than all these things. And you're like, oh my gosh, Addie. But it is, like, a lesson. It's like, you should not ever divulge all of your attention into one person. And they weren't afraid to let her make some really bad choices that I think would be made by a middle school girl or boy. Zach and Gina are completely fed up with Addie in this episode, and it's nice because we saw Gina have a boyfriend, and Addie kind of got weird about that in the first season. She's like, oh, I never see her anymore. And now it's like completely the tables have turned. Gina and Zach are like, you don't care about us at all. Like, you stopped showing up to all these things. And then she's like, okay, fine, I'll treat you to a juice at the juice bar. And then she stands him up. And for me, that's where I would completely cut him off. If somebody promised they would make something up to me like that, I would definitely be upset. But it's cool because Gina and Zach do get upset, and they straightforward just cut her off. And she likes to act like she doesn't think it's an issue or that, like, maybe they're overreacting. But until Randy Klein actually gets sick and can't go on dates with her, she starts to realize what she's actually missing out on. And for me, it's kind of hard to empathize with her because it's like, you clearly don't want to hang out with your friends because you miss your friends. You just want to hang out with your new boyfriend again. It's all about the balancing act, as the episode suggests. Of course, the mom even, like, kind of shuns her for this. I feel like Addie's, like, worse than, like, most of the characters, and she's like, you definitely have to give time to everybody. Like, if a relationship was healthy, it would be about managing your time differently, and it's really important to keep all the people in your life happy, especially since friendships are a lot less committal. Not that they're not committal, it's like friendships take a lot more effort to go out of your way and, like, make every individual thing happen because you have to make time for the people in your life. And I feel like Addie is, like, almost cutting back on all the work it takes to keep a friend. Relationships are slightly easier because it's like you kind of know you're committed. There's, like, this understanding, but friendships, they are more fragile. A relationship, if somebody doesn't fit the needs that you desire, you could easily break up. It's normal to be like, hey, I can't date this person because it didn't work out. But friendship is almost slightly less committal to a point where you don't really cut people off for having differences like that. You actually have to learn how to be more accepting. I just feel like friendships are just such a different beast, and you learn that in 7th grade for sure. So yeah, Addie pretty much is rejected by Gina and Zach, and they stick to their guns, which I really appreciate. Addie even stays up all night on the phone trying to get Gina's attention, leaving her, like, a bunch of messages, which, by the way, is red flag alert. I feel like I used to see posters in my college that said, like, if you see somebody, like, over texting or texting their relationship too much, they might be in a bad relationship. And I'm like, yeah, that does give me some toxic energy a little bit, especially if one person's not answering ever. So yeah, eventually she does try to get to their attention by using all the information she knows about them as friends in her favor. Like, she meets Gina at her old soda spot at school, then she goes to Zach's games. And it's kind of sweet because I feel like a lot of times in this day and age, we kind of break up with our friends for, like, simple reasons or relationship-like reasons, when really we should be opening ourselves up to, like, the differences and actually work a little bit harder to understand each other. And Addie doing that in this episode is just a very good lesson. It's like, sometimes you are gonna mess up, and despite that, it's important to, like, acknowledge your mistakes and work hard to fix it next time. And she does that. It's a really, really good turnaround from her, and we like her more as a character, and her friends seem to give her the time and care, even forgive her when it's time. And the episode doesn't end there. Randy Klein starts feeling better and actually wants to go on a date with her. So next thing you know, she's at the movies with Gina and Zach, but now she, like, sees her dates there. But then she does the right thing and tells Randy that she wants to spend time with her friend, and then accidentally gives him his peanut allergy. Yeah, that's crazy. So she has her first kiss with him, and he's allergic to peanuts, and Addie did not even realize that. So that's how the episode ends. She gets her first kiss, she fulfills her friendships, and she almost kills a guy. Yeah, this episode's a lot of fun, but it does provide a lot of nice insights that I feel like teenagers should know nowadays. Like, please take your time time to actually grow your friendships. And if you get in a disagreement or even an argument with people, even if you feel like they're giving you the cold shoulder, it's important to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt and work with them to try to do everything it takes to maintain that friendship. Obviously, with some restrictions, you can't compromise all of your comfortability for another person, but it's important to acknowledge your mistakes. And Addie did a good job this episode, so I'm giving her points, okay? The next episode is episode 3. It's called The Job. And this is funny because I forgot there was this trope in all the 2000 shows where it's like you have to have an episode where one of the characters is babysitting somebody. Like somebody's in way over their head, like Drake and Josh did 2 idiots and a baby, or Trina took care of 2 kids by keeping them on a rope in iParty with Victorious. The point is, like, for some reason, we had a lot of babysitting tropes going on. If not babysitting tropes, it was about like a younger person taking advantage of the older person who should know better. But all around, it's always funny because I'm curious how the writers want the kids to act crazy. And this is another episode that I just feel like Addie is not looking like a great person. I thought it was this bad in the first season, but it wasn't. There's no way I thought this was her. Like, I feel like they're throwing every possible flaw in her way because she borrows money from her friends, apparently. Like, even Zach owes her this amount that he can't even name. So it's like, must be like $1,000 or something. That's what I would think. But he's like, you'll never pay me back. And I'm like, what is it, like 60 grand? The only thing I'm never gonna pay back is my student loans, okay? They have a little montage of everything Addie has asked for money-wise.
I can't live without these. Loan me the money, and I promise I'll pay back.
And then Gina has everything she's borrowed. She owes both of her friends.
Tank top? Designer sunglasses?
So this whole episode is like about paying her friends back. And then that's another trope. Even Hannah Montana, That's So Raven, so many episodes about making a debt and having to repay it and how are they gonna repay it. Addie tries a lot of things to get the money in this episode, so it kind of makes us feel like, okay, she's not a horrible person. Like, she tries to sell sandwiches, and then she tries to sing on the road, but guess who stops her? A cop. Not just any cop, the cop who's principal from iCarly. Yeah, he's in it. And he's actually really funny in this bit because Addie keeps trying to do these things to get money and it turns out to be illegal and he's there every time. And I'm like, dang, Addie, you are building up a bad reputation right now. He's there pretty much shutting her down at every point and things are seeming hopeless until she realizes there's a babysitting job for her. And it is way too good to be true. Like, the guy's paying them a lot of money and she's like, okay, I just have to babysit. Like, it can't be that big of a deal. And before she accepts, she's like actually gonna back down from it until she sees how much money it is. And of course that makes her want to stay. Her family is a little sketched out because they're like, why would they pay you so much to take care of this kid? There has to be a catch, which is a good life lesson. Like, yeah, never take a large sum of money for no reason. People do that to manipulate you. Make sure you be very cautious when you take on jobs like that. I think this scenario is just all about the girl being so disrespectful and not easy to take care of. But for the most part, like, she's getting her money in a fair way. So Mary Ferry shows up while Addie's babysitting and she is a pro babysitter. She like is prepped for everything in every situation. And Addie's just like, don't worry, I'm just doing it. It's easy. I don't need to worry about it. Obviously, she's telling the kid over and over again, your dad does not let you do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. I was a professional babysitter, guys, for 3 years and I know my stuff. So this episode's gonna look really interesting to me. Meanwhile, there's a B plot about Addie's brother, but it's so swept under the rug, I swear I just forgot it. Basically, he loses the opportunity to become Employee of the Month because there's this new supervisor that is taking every opportunity from him, pretty much. So later, the babysitting actually gets super hard, and she realizes why it costs so much money for her to do it, because this girl is crazy.
How hard could babysitting one little girl be?
It's been only a month since Scarlett's mother left on her book tour.
And she ends up puking juice all over Addie. Oh wait, backtrack though. Gina tells Addie that Ashton Kutcher is at the juice place, so she takes the kid with her to the juice. And then that's when she throws up. So all because of Addie's negligence, there becomes this huge issue with the kid. It's kind of gross the way they throw it up, but obviously it's not even realistic, so I don't know why I'm falling for it to begin with. In the end, Addie needs Mary Ferry to come through because she does not know how to clean up this mess literally before the parents get home. She gets the help of Mary Ferry and everything ends up being okay. Addie gets paid the money, but she has to give it all to Mary Fairy until the dad actually gives her a bonus because he's so impressed. And she doesn't even want to accept it. She comes clean and is like, I did not do a great job, and I just need you to know that. And yeah, he's pretty sweet about it. It's nice because everybody kind of wins in this episode. Mary Fairy gets to be the babysitter she wants to be. And in the end, we learn that Addie gets a job with her dad at the skating rink, which is a cool addition to the show. I feel like Addie have a job and then also Ben having a job is very cool. But yeah, all around, it's a lot of fun to watch the topic of responsibility in your young teenage years. And seeing Addie go through all this is kind of comical. I gotta admit though, I wish the show was a lot more funny. I feel like there's a lot of jokes, but it doesn't necessarily lend itself to be funny. The morals are really good, like you learn a lot of lessons through it, but are you having fun learning them? Not really. Oh, then we got episode 4, the I Randy. And this is really funny because it's all about jealousy. And I definitely dealt with that when I was growing up. So Addie is insanely jealous, basically like questioning Randy Klein, questioning all the girls around him, because apparently he's so popular and attractive that everybody wants to be with him.
Mary, stop looking at my boyfriend's butt!
Addie. And it doesn't make sense that Addie's with him. So basically she's questioning everyone and everything. She doesn't trust anything.
Don't think twice, I'm everywhere. Even when he's in the dentist chair. Is that hygienist looking at his derriere?
Until Gina and Zach kind of give her a little bit of lesson like, hey, like it's usually an insecurity if it has to do with that. So she tries to be a little bit less defensive, and they warn her that she could be pushing Randy Klein away because of her jealousy. And this is something I wish I knew as a middle schooler. Like, jealousy is normal. Like, it's normal to really want to be with somebody and be nervous about somebody else taking them away, and almost having it kind of be deeper than that, like it is for Addie here. And then there's this like funny moment where the dad is like, yeah, like your mom used to get so jealous, and she's like, yeah, okay. And I don't know why, I usually like those jokes. So Randy starts picking up on Addie acting insane, and it's so funny to see like this actually going on in front of her. Like, I feel like if this were to happen nowadays, like somebody wouldn't say something, they would just like be jealous and or act out in a jealous rage without saying anything about it. So the fact that Addie's like verbalizing it is the reason she's actually able to confront it. She takes into account that this definitely has to be an insecurity issue, looks in the mirror, tries to talk to herself, but there's not really a way around this for her. We think that everything works out in the long run until there's this huge accident at the juice bar. Addie thinks somebody is flirting with him, and they basically have this whole freak out, and it is insane. Like I said, another moment that's like, it's funny, but I'm not necessarily laughing. The B-plot's a little weird in this. Basically, they're getting construction done on their house, and the mom and dad just love the contractor, think he's really awesome. I was thinking this would have to do with jealousy, but it more so has to do with him being lonely, and he like befriends the family, and then he insults the mom and she kicks him out of the house. I mean, like, I get it, like, he's insulted you, but he didn't really mean to, and then they fired him for that. Like, I don't know why, that's just kind of icky. But yeah, Addie learns her lesson when Randy Klein finally breaks up with her for acting like this green-eyed monster.
Hi, Addie. Hi, Randy.
That's a funny way to put it though, the green-eyed monster. In the end, Addie apologizes to Randy and like tries to make it up to him, and he's very open to it. It seems like they're gonna get back together right by the end, and yeah, we get a nice little happy ending here. It's funny because there's a lot of little instances where Addie interacts with Jake Behari, whether he's giving her advice or she's like kind of ranting to him, kind of growing their friendship, and it reminds me that like maybe there is a recurring love line with the two. I can't remember the show super well, but I do think it comes back. And I feel like her with Randy Klein doesn't make a lot of sense, so I'm excited for us to move on from that.
So episode 5 is called The Road Trip, and this one's kind of confusing because I thought it was going to be about a road trip. Sue me, why don't ya? I don't know why they named it this, because it is not about a road trip at all. It's not a bad episode, it's just the expectations on my part were not met, and I'm pretty disappointed about that. This is one of those like normal teenager episodes. If anything, it is one of the most generic I feel like I've ever seen. The whole premise is that Addie's dad is going to be going to a car show in which the whole family was going to go, but now it seems like Addie is pretending to be sick.
No offense, Addie, but that's the fakest fake sick voice I've ever heard.
No, it's not. Achoo!
You just fake sneezed on me.
The writers kind of did a baller move here because they have the entire ending of the episode literally in the first like minute, and you'll miss it if you don't notice it. Basically, the dad opens the kitchen doors to find a bunch of party supplies fall out of it. We learn that there's going to be a party and that this dad is going to find out about it, which is even crazier because what does this have to do with a road trip? Let me go backwards a little bit. So Addie pretends to be sick so she doesn't have to go to this car show with her family. It's usually this family road trip. Uh-oh, she's too old for it at this point. Surprise, surprise. So she pretends to be sick.
I don't have to go.
You know what? I'm gonna call you every hour on the hour just to make sure you're okay.
Okay. Sounds good. Bye, Mom.
An interesting conflict in this is that Ben is trying to throw a party throughout this thing, but he didn't intend on Addie being home.
You get me some chicken soup.
Cut the amateur act, Faker. I'm the Al Pacino at pretending sick.
And Addie's just trying to hang out with her friends, so it's not necessarily like she's into the party quite yet, but it does quickly become a sibling rivalry thing. Who is gonna get the house while the parents are away? We see Ben telling everybody at work to get ready for this party. Even his work crush is like teasing him and trying to be a part of it, even though she doesn't really want to go. This is an interesting romance between the two. I feel like it's just him vying after her a lot of times. So Addie gets away with it. Her parents actually believe it, and she finds herself going in with this commitment to her mother, where her mother will call pretty much any time and every time just to see if she's okay, and if she doesn't answer the phone, she's going to be concerned. So that actually gives her a reason to need to be behind this phone all night, which, by the way, would not be hard. I really feel like she's overthinking this. She pretty much turns this entire party to have to go back to the phone any chance she could just to keep this secret. Meanwhile, the party gets out of hand. Zach and Gina invite themselves in, which Ben, of course, doesn't want because he doesn't want middle schoolers coming to this, but they do anyway. Like I said, one of the most generic plots ever, hiding a party from your parents. They did it on Drake and Josh. They did it on every show, essentially. Addie even realizes that she missed one of the phone calls that her mom made to her, so when she goes back to her room, she finds some random party goer on the phone with her. And this guy's like hitting on the mom. He actually thinks he has a chance, which I don't know, maybe he does. Point is, they're on their way. Everything becomes a race to try to get this entire party erased from the eyes of society. I don't know why I like put a randomly colorful verbiage on that, and Ben, this girl he's crushing on, and Gina, Zach, and Addie are very, very quickly trying to tidy up the whole house. They inevitably do it and kind of get away with it. I should do like a tally on how many times the kids actually get away with something like this versus like actually get caught. I can't think of a single episode where they had a party episode and the kids didn't get caught. Like, I think that's the moral of the story. I don't know why adult writers would ever be like, oh, by the way, you might be able to get away with this sometimes. It's like, no, I definitely think it's impossibly hard to get away with something like this. It's kind of sweet because Addie and her brother like kind of bond over this situation. They seriously look out for each other in these scenarios, and you gotta appreciate that. The parents come home and it seems like everything is going to be gotten away with until the dad ends up finding all the stuff from the party in the closet, which is kind of a great full circle moment because, you know, we saw that at the very beginning of the episode. Again, baller move from the writer's perspective that we actually see the ending before the entire show. And yeah, so moral of the story, they don't get away with it, and we have a happy time. So yeah, that's the road trip. We're pretty deep into season 2 at this point, and I feel like it's got a lot quirkier. The characters feel like a little bit more natural, and they kind of like know what they're going for. Season 1 felt a little bit more robotic, but I like kind of where this is headed. I just like that it's kind of taking a break from the whole Jake Behari thing. Like, I do care about how these characters act outside of him. So the next episode we have is 6, The Charity Case, and this one kind of reminds me a lot of that season 1 episode where they had to like get into different social circles and Addie became like a popular girl, which I thought was like a really interesting take on a normal sitcom episode. This one is kind of not doing that. This is like the more generic version of that. It's basically Addie and Gina versus Cranberry and Maris, and they're trying to create the perfect charity. It's the same teacher from the last season, which I don't understand. Are they in a new grade or what? I'm starting to pick up that Maris and Cranberry do this thing where they like twiddle their fingers at each other and say burn.
Burn! Burn! Burn!
Which I can't imagine the origin of this because they do it on Hannah Montana as well.
Ooh! Ooh! Ooh!
Not now.
Like, what is this popular girls say burn thing? Like, does it come from the burn book from Mean Girls? Like, how did the 2000s adopt this narrative? You tell me. I have no idea at this point, honestly. But it feels kind of inauthentic. I don't even know which show came first at this point. This part is the most traumatic for me. So they decide to just like make CDs of Gina and Addie singing harmonies about the Heifer House. They're focused on this whole cow program and getting money for that. And they have a whole setup in school where they're like trying to collect money for their singing, and this is kind of ridiculous.
We are gonna raise so much money for Heifer House that will go down in cow money raising history.
It's such a good idea to do, for sure, but like the tune gets stuck in my head so hard. When I saw this episode a couple weeks ago, I could not get this out of my head. Ooh, give to the Heifer House. I really can't sing. Please give me a break. It's funny talking about this while I'm like doing another video series. Like right now I'm trying to find all the cameos that older characters are in, and this main girl, Gina Melissa Joe, is really good. Like she's in iCarly, she's in Big Time Rush. I'm just like now realizing like all the parts she takes in outside of this show. And it's kind of sad because like she was starting out as a main character on this show and then never really got a main part like this again, which sucks because she's definitely quirky. I could see how she doesn't fit into any of the types they were going for later, but it always sucks when like an actress like can't fit into the zeitgeist of these shows anymore, not because of their skills, but because they just don't fit the written part, and it's just kind of sad. I just want to acknowledge that. So Addie and Gina decide the brilliant idea of bringing this cow to school, and this is where the episode gets a little wacky. The cow like goes all throughout the school, and they even learn that a cow can't come downstairs by itself. Like if it goes upstairs, it's not able to get down. Yeah, that's an interesting twist. They get the cow and it can't come down some stairs. If I had a nickel for every time one of these teen shows had an episode where they adopted an animal and the animals went haywire to a point where like they couldn't do anything about it. I'm thinking about the horse in Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I'm thinking about the chicks in iCarly. Like how many times have this happened? Literally the goat in Drake and Josh. Like what? That's a little too common to me, if you ask. The B plot is such a weird tie-in to this whole episode. It's literally Ben and his dad, where his dad's like, I used to be a prankster, and Ben's like, really?
Being a prankster is harder than it looks.
Ben is the one who ends up getting this cow to go up the stairs just to pull the prank, which does he even realize that it's his sister's? Like, I don't know. I feel like the moral of this episode is like charity needs to be done for good sake and not just to get back at other people. Fair message. I didn't realize how many people were doing that to begin with, but I guess I'm not judging. And Ben gets counter-pranked by everybody at the Juice because they're all naked, which is a wild ending to any sitcom. I can't believe this even happened. Like a whole nudist experience. All around, very basic episode, but hey, basic had to come from somewhere, right guys? This next episode of Unfabulous is episode 7, The Information, and this is actually one of my favorite episodes of this show, and you'll see why in a second. They end up doing something that I swear I've not really seen on a lot of sitcoms, but I do like that it came across in this one. This is another Addie is Romantic episode, this time again with Randy Klein, but hey, that's like not the genius of this episode. The genius is the musical number that's gonna happen. So it starts off with this mini golf experience, and it's kind of talking about boys' night and how that can be kind of toxic. It's so funny when there's like a guy character that most of the decisions he makes and like in the context of the show has to do with the main character, like Addie Singer, and then they try to like have like a guy's night out, like, and actually like be alone for a little bit, not be affected by everybody else's decisions, and then of course like they just kind of get roped back into it. That's kind of how this episode goes. Randy Klein's an interesting character because he was barely seen in the first season and then just appears now, and now is Addie's boyfriend, and he's dealing with a lot because Addie is such a handful in this specific amount of episodes. Like she's jealous, she's angry. I don't know, I've never seen this side of her, but I feel like it makes sense because as you're growing up you start to like figure out what you value in a relationship. They end up getting into really deep emotional conversations that actually really reflect on the teenage experience a little bit later in this season. So this is a great like build up to that. So all the guys are talking about going going to this guy's night at the mini golfing place. Addie is really upset because she's not invited, and it bothers her a lot, which it would bother me a lot. I feel like it's unfair for them to judge her for that. Guys just kind of want to hang out alone and talk about things guys want to talk about, and of course we get that little parody of like, what could they possibly want to talk about on their own? And Addie's like worried that they're talking about her or not being happy in the relationship. Fair insecurity. I would be nervous about that too. And even the janitor goes to guys' night. That's a funny joke, but it's like also just out of left field. Like there's no way that the janitor joins these teenage boys on their guys' night. That's just ridiculous. The highlight for this episode for me is definitely the musical number. So Addie is like talking about how she's curious of what these guys talk about on guys' night. Like what goes on and why is she insecure about it. So she ends up singing with the golf club in her hand, and all the boys have different colored t-shirts like the Wiggles, and this is very 2000s. And yeah, so she's singing about like how she wants to know what guys' night is like, and it's such a cute musical number. I was not expecting it. I think it's perfect to show a great example of like how Addie's mind works, and it is a little bit more theatrical. Like it's about her seeing the world through a very colorful lens, and so every time we have a musical number, it brings out that personality. If it were me, I feel like they should have that in every episode, like just something that shows what she's going through and her singing her way out of it. But they didn't seem to take singing as seriously back then. I feel like they were focused on getting a good show. This was like before Disney Channel really lifted all of these stars up into a singing career. But yeah, Addie is such a good singer. This is where it kind of gets out of pocket. Addie brings her fears into Mary Fairy's reality, where she's like, don't you think your boyfriend's talking about breaking up with us without us there? And of course, this girl's concerned. She's like, what the heck? And so Addie essentially convinces her to go to man golf with them. Of course, like, they end up not catching any important information.
They're talking about desperate housewives. Don't tell me, I haven't watched last week's episode yet.
So you can imagine this time when they actually spy on the guys, Randy ends up finding out. All the guys are a little disappointed because she didn't respect their privacy. I mean, I would feel left out, but I wouldn't take it to the extent that Addie did.
Hey guys, great night for golf, right? Shooting star, make a wish.
So the rest of the episode just becomes about her trying to make it up to Mary Fairy and the rest of the guys, because apparently Mary Fairy and her boyfriend break up because of this. Oh my god, Addie, not cool. So yeah, everybody ends up making up by the end of the episode. It's just like, what did it take to get there? And why is the episodes that I really like happen to be when the main character is a horrible person? Like, I hate that, but unfortunately it makes for great comedy and I like it. So I don't hate it, I guess. Yeah, Randy Klein and Addie make up, and everything is sweet. And we learned about the gender differences and how to respect each other's boundaries based on what they want to talk about. Very interesting topic. I feel like it could go the other way around too, where it's like there's a girls episode where guys can realize that they don't necessarily fit into that conversation. What?
We put glitter in that so it can match our nails.
Because that's the story of my life. No, I'm just kidding. Well, actually, I'm not. Anyway, so yeah, that's the information. Okay, so for episode 8, this one's actually a really fun one. It's a Halloween episode, essentially. It's called The Dark Side. And it starts out really crazy, and I do not think that teen shows would do this anymore, because like it's just kind of a more adult topic. It's like going to a party and then how you deal with jealousy with Addie and Randy. She's like not comfortable giving him his own space, so it's a lot about her meddling in his experiences, which is crazy. Maris and Cranberry are having a Halloween party, and they always play Spin the Bottle. Apparently, Addie has only embarrassed everybody in the years following, so they never had her back. They really don't want to invite her, so they invite everybody but her. Kind of rude. Addie's not that bad. So Addie is determined to make sure that she gets the kiss with her boyfriend. Gina helps her out by saying like, hey, there's nothing random about Spin the Bottle.
I think I trust these lips to pure chance.
Which is an interesting concept, and she's like, there's a way to rig this so that every time it like circles, it could land on the same person, which is very comical. I love the idea that that's even possible. But yeah, so Gina essentially puts Addie through training to make sure that she can get the bottle to always land on her. That way she could share a kiss with Randy, her boyfriend, and nobody else gets stuck with him.
The bottle's gonna stop on the one that I wanna kiss.
I don't even know why this is like fair game for cheating. Like, can we just talk about the fact that like if you're committed to somebody, I think any scenario where you kiss somebody else is an issue. So Randy goes to this party dressed as Darth Vader.
I'll join you or die.
And okay, cool. Addie does everything exactly as she should. She ends up spinning the bottle, getting it to land on Darth Vader, and they end up going to the closet for like 20 seconds. And it's like, okay, see, this is what I think would not be on a modern tween show. Like, I do like that we're like covering a topic like this because I feel like teenagers would pull off something like this. But it is crazy to look back on and be like, wow, like they were not afraid to talk about their experiences. So Addie goes into the closet with Darth Vader and they supposedly kiss. And, you know, a couple minutes later, she comes out and the whole episode feels solved, right? Well, wrong. There's more than one Darth Vader.
There's two of them?
So it turns out she might not have kissed Randy. And even bigger shock, it turns out Jake Behari was also at this party dressed as Darth Vader. And this is where we get to the complicated territory because Addie is very protective of her boyfriend, Randy. Suddenly, she's convinced she might have kissed somebody else herself and is really concerned about this and wants to hide it. So it's not like she's given the same respect that she would want, which is crazy because it's like, clearly if you just be honest about everything, like it would make sense. Addie kind of goes off on her own and is really ashamed of what she did. Jake ends up talking to her and they have like this good one-on-one moment. You could tell there's like a little bit of care there. Like I think there's something romantic still going on with Addie and Jake. He admits that they definitely didn't kiss. It couldn't have been him. So it was Randy. So Addie was freaking out for no reason, but we do kind of have insight on the fact that she felt guilty, which means there was something to feel guilty about. Ooh, gosh, Addie, you're in some deep water. So yeah, this whole party turns into a big guilt trip for Addie, and she feels horrible. It kind of ends up being sweet where we find out that Jake actually did lie to Addie, and they did kiss, because he's the only one with the light up Darth Vader thing. Randy says that he didn't get the light up Darth Vader thing. Oh my god, look at me, being a 28-year-old talking about how they're kissing the wrong people. What has my life become? So it turns out that Jake lied, and it was them who shared a kiss, but he was just trying to spare her feelings. Not sure if that's romantic, or I don't even know what to make of that, honestly. Point of the story is Addie and Jake kissed. She cheated, didn't realize it happened. Don't know. This is crazy to me, honestly. So yeah, that's the dark side. Definitely a very interesting Halloween episode to go around. I didn't even realize Unfabulous had an episode like this, but after the information episode where Addie was like so intent on getting personal info from her boyfriend Randy, and yet this episode she's like going out of her way to hide information from Randy, I feel like it's not really fair, Addie. But that is a very good representation of the teenage experience because you don't understand boundaries or what's fair or what's not fair because you only know what you're given, which definitely a good reflection of how this show is. Okay, so next we have number 9, the gray area, and this one actually starts off pretty funny. So we see Brandywine and her coach Pearson working a 9-to-5 job that's not school. It's literally like a fast food burger joint, and she admits that this is all because of her actions, which I find a wacky beginning. Like, this is insane. She ruined multiple people's lives just by saying this one thing. Great cold open, honestly, because I'm really curious where this goes. We learn that there's been a new principal that has started working here at their school, and it's Miss Briggs. Oh my gosh, this poor actress. This woman who plays Miss Briggs and a million other teachers and a million other shows is the most typecast person I could ever imagine. Like, this is so not fair. They like do not give her any other parts. She's definitely like a hardball, which is kind of revealing a lot of information. It makes me feel like that the school is about to change for the worse because of Addie's actions, even furthering my confusion with how this is gonna go. So we think this episode's about getting a new principal, which isn't necessarily true. So they have a competition basically because they're gonna change the cheerleaders' uniforms, and they don't know what it's gonna be changed to, but they decide to have a talent competition between all the students to figure out who deserves to be the judge and actually decide who it becomes. Kind of a convoluted way to decide something like that, but I'm not here to judge. I don't go to their school. So they have this like outdoor talent show, which by the way, this would not have worked in my high school. Like, I feel like if you had a bunch of people just singing in front of the whole class, being the teenagers that they are, would probably mock, bully, and make fun of everybody that stood up to sing, let alone like give them a chance to win. This is kind of like an adult's ideal world, you could tell, like from a writing standpoint, because I don't think any of us would have wanted to do this. This is kind of a nightmare to think you would have to sing in front of all your peers. Good for Addie for actually doing it. But yeah, she ends up winning the right to choose who is going to make the cheerleading uniforms. And it comes between Gina and Maris. which is kind of crazy because Addie's worried about her reputation and like being super biased because Gina is her best friend. Meanwhile, Maris, if she voted for her, she would seem a lot less calculated about it. So it's all about Addie worrying about her reputation and what she should do with it. She hesitates to even let Gina win this, which is kind of sad. I feel like it makes sense because obviously you want fairness at this stage in your life. You want to make sure that everybody is treated equally, but you do have best friends and it is important to like stick your loyalty. Like there's a reason you're friends with them because you probably do prefer their style and like what they go about. But Addie like tries to go completely the opposite direction and convince everybody that like she is so impartial that it almost matters more than her friendship with Gina. And that's kind of a sad story to tell, honestly.
Guilty of treason. She betrayed her best friend.
The moral of the story, Addie actually says earlier in this episode, it's hard to choose something for the right reasons, like whether you're trying to be fair, whether you're trying to be honest, and honest and fair are like two completely different beasts, which is a hard thing to wrap around your head. So Addie and Gina essentially break up because Addie tells her that she's not going to vote for her and just like kind of keep that reputation going. That is not a good friend, I'm telling you right now. Gina actually confronts her, which I actually like about this character. I feel like Gina is very honest and open immediately when she learns that like something is going on that's not right, and you definitely need that in a best friend. Like Gina is very loyal. Of course, there's a lot of pressure on this whole choice because of this new principal that's coming in, and Principal Brandywine and Pearson end up becoming fired from the school, which seems like it was Addie's fault, but now that we saw the events play out, it really doesn't have anything to do with her. It's this really bad principal that's kind of evil. In the end, everything turns out okay, and they end up going with Maris for the cheerleading outfit. And yeah, Addie learns her lesson that like just because it's fair doesn't mean you should go out of your way to do something inauthentic to do it. Very sweet, very cool episode, and everything gets back to the way it was. The episode ends with them having like really awkward frog-based outfits, which, oh my gosh, that's such a weird solve to this episode. All around, it's like nice to have like a really sweet concept because a lot of it's been romantic, but the fact that it's about Addie making like a important decision, the gray area being like who she wants to vote for versus who she should vote for. In this scenario, it's both. So I don't think Addie was like faced with a big decision anyway. I think she just was morally worried about her reputation more than how this whole thing went down. Yeah, so let's move on from this episode. Episode 10, The Perfect Couple, is where Unfabulous gets unnecessarily real and grounded about its advice. It starts out with Addie seeing herself on the Titanic with her boyfriend Randy Klein, and it's like when she first starts having doubts about her relationship.
Oh no, my relationship with Randy's on the rock!
Having the episode be called The Perfect Couple really intrigues me and wants to see how this goes. Everybody in school honors Addie because she's in the perfect relationship. Everybody's jealous of her, which I don't know why Randy Klein is such a big deal, but she wears it like a badge of honor, even has a picture of him in her locker, and then they go on the SS Tipton.
Welcome aboard!
Just kidding. But no, the SS relationship. That Titanic reference is really awesome to me. In the B-plot, we actually get insight onto Zach's love life. So he is actually dating somebody himself, but this girl is a year older than him, and they only want to talk on the phone. So she's kind of ashamed to be around him because he's younger, and it makes me feel bad. Like, that's kind of a sad story. He's like trying to get closer to her, but it doesn't work because she's like, no, like, I can't be seen with you. If you want to date me, that's just what you have to deal with. And it's like, oh, okay. Meanwhile, Addie starts to test Randy because she's insecure that just because they're the perfect couple doesn't mean they like each other enough. So she starts to wonder if he knows anything about her. Like, does he even really like her? So she starts to put him through a bunch of tests where she's like talking about her interests, and he fails at literally every turn. It kind of gets a little depressing if you ask me.
I'd bet you'd be good at tuba, because you like to talk. You probably have good lungs.
But this is like so real. I remember being in relationships in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, even 14th grade about dating somebody just because like you think it's necessary or the right choice. And really you're just like trying to mold yourself to be somebody you're not to fit in this relationship. That's kind of how I feel Addie's going about this, especially with how intense she is about relationships. It seems like there's too much overthinking to even realize if you like your partner. Kind of sad, but you know, kind of real. Randy starts not actually showing up for Addie, having her actually question their relationship relationship. She's like, let's go skating tomorrow night. And he's just trying to like make it up to her. And like, I do care about you and I want to treat you right. And so it's like, okay, cool. We have like this objective thing that they need to be in a relationship for. Great. So she ends up going to the skating party and he doesn't show up, actually causing her to be furious. This is like the second time he's done this. And now she's like, who am I actually with? Later, she's like angry at him. He's not answering the phone. And then she learns that he got into one of his another classic Randy Klein accidents from season 1, where he was just never seen because he was always in a new accident. Which, by the way, that would be a really hard couple to maintain, if you ask me. So Addie is like determined on breaking up with him, and it almost like makes sense to her now. So after she like visits him in the hospital, she almost is like guilty that she still wants to break up with him, despite the fact that like he technically hasn't done anything wrong. So it's pure compatibility as an issue here. There's a really random scene where Coach Pearson is actually talking to Zach and trying to get advice on his relationship and why she won't talk to him, and he's really not helpful. If anything, he's just like kind of being depressing. He's like, did she leave you for a jock? And he's like, I am a jock.
So what's the problem? Did she leave you for a jock?
Coach, I am a jock.
It's just such a weird side scene that Zach doesn't really need. So even though everything ends up working out, Addie still feels a little empty. They go on a date, give each other gifts, and she's like, Randy, like, do we actually know or care about each other? What is this really? We get really circled around back to the Titanic metaphor, and she ends up breaking up with him, which is actually really sad. And they remain friends, which I don't think is super realistic. I think people get angry at each other for stuff like that. Oh, it's really depressing to think that like she's going through a breakup like this, but you know that like she really didn't care about him to begin with. So it's a really honest, in a brutal way, episode about how teenagers really will just like pair off just for the need to do so. And I feel like a lot of TV shows don't do it this well or shine a light on this topic. So it is cool that Unfabulous does it so well. Zach ends up winning over the girl he likes by having a bunch of flowers in front of all the cheerleaders, and oh, it actually kind of works. That's nice. And I forgot that the cheerleaders are still wearing these frog costumes. Like, why in the world would this be your cheerleader outfit? Come on, guys. But yeah, sweet episode. It's nice that it goes this way. It gets depressing in a really sweet way, honestly. And we're gonna see more about this like aftermath of Addie's breakup with Randy Klein, which I'm excited to get into. This is a really pivotal episode in the series, considering we're almost like halfway through this whole show. Like, this is episode 35 and there's only 50 episodes max. This is crazy that this is such a big point in it. This one kind of makes me sad considering we just like had a full-on breakup episode. So episode 11 is called The Drama. It becomes more of like a Gina versus Addie situation, and all while they're putting on this performance of the Pirates of Penzance. So Principal Brandywine is telling the entire school that they're going to be putting on a new musical, and just, I guess everybody has to be involved. If this was a real life scenario, a lot of us wouldn't be involved. I feel like only 30% of the school population likes to be in theater. This is kind of rare. Addie and Gina want to get involved. Both of them auditioning for the lead part. Coach Pearson just happens to be the one in charge, and he's the perfect guy to play the theater teacher. Literally the coach. I can't believe this is even happening. Only this would happen in like a public school.
I am the very model of a modern major general. I've information, vegetable, animal, and mineral. I know the kings of England, and I quote the fights historical from Marathon to Waterloo in order categorical.
Pirates of Penzance is a really specific show. It's very old, so people get the rights to it like for very cheap. It's done in a lot of high schools. It's a pirate-related show, not Pirates of the Caribbean, but like just old school pirates. And the music is actually really mature for a middle school to put on. I can't believe they're even doing this. But yeah, that's my rant about the actual show itself. Addie wants to be in it, but Coach Pearson is not going to cast her. He actually casts Gina as the main part, and instead asks Addie if she wants to direct it instead. Okay, so Addie decides to be this director, not really realizing how much power issues it might come with. So she takes out her frustrations on Gina as the main character, while she's like become this big bossy person in the theatrical community, which is true. Like, everybody gets a little pretentious when it comes to putting up a stage and like putting out art that represents them, which to me is like kind of a weird allegation of power. I don't think we should view art that way. I definitely think we should not be competitive with it. Jake Behari is the main guy actually having to kiss Gina on stage, which actually fuels a lot of fire into Addie, because she's like, how dare she? Which is crazy. I don't know why girls turn against each other for something that nobody has any control over. Like, it's not fair to just blame somebody, but fine. Addie gets a little crazy with power and almost isolates her friends the closer this show comes to production. And she doubles down a lot. Like, I don't know why she keeps, like, turning further and further against her friends because this show has to be good. Like, it definitely feels a little out of character for her.
I am the very model of a modern major idiot. I'm mad that Gina's acting even though I talked her into it. I'm fighting with my BFF. I'm acting like a total freak. To top it off, the stupid play is opening in just a week. To top it off, the stupid play is opening in just a week.
Having like a moment with Jake actually gets her to realize that she's taking this a little too seriously. And despite having like just broken up with her boyfriend, she starts falling for him again. Oh my god. Gina ends up getting hurt, which actually screws the show over a lot. And Addie realizes how important it is that they actually work together in order to get the show to go up, because if it's a one-woman show, it's really not going to be worth it. So Addie ends up being a part of the dress rehearsal, actually trying to fill in for Gina's part, but does a really bad job. Once she gets over her jealousy and the show actually goes on, it becomes like a really nice time, and Gina and Addie actually get over their differences, with Addie realizing a little bit further that maybe there is future with Jake. Especially since she got so jealous with him and Gina. Like, this is clearly going to be a problem unless they resolve it. And I don't know, like, of course they have to have chemistry. Jake's finally single, she's single. They're not ready to talk about it yet, but I feel like something's definitely coming on between them. So yeah, nice to have a theatrical episode about putting on the school show. I definitely feel like it's a crazy point of contention between like two teenagers to fight over, but so real, because of course that would happen in a school setting like that. The competitiveness, the cattiness of it all, like, it brings out the worst in people, and not in a bad way. I mean, it's fun to bring out the worst in people because it builds character to try to take that part down. And Addie's had a lot of moments in this season so far where she has to kind of be the bigger person or look at herself in the mirror and be like, wow, I'm not acting in a very mature way. Maybe there's like deeper, darker intentions behind here, but this person does not deserve it. And I like that. I like seeing Addie being tested and how she actually manages to like overcome it. It definitely is a great experience for her character. Now that we're fully letting go of the Randy Klein premise and actually allowing ourselves to get back on the Jake Behari train, it feels like things are about to take a really big turn for the better and worse in a way. So stick around as we jump to the next episode. This next episode comes across to me as comic relief because it's kind of ridiculous. I feel really bad for Addie. So it's called The Setup, and it takes place essentially after Randy and Addie broke up, because it's kind of about her recovering from the breakup, despite the fact we literally had a drama episode in between both of this. Like, it feels like she's moved on because she's already jealous of Gina with Jake Behari, but we're just gonna put that behind us. I feel like this must be like a production order versus air date issue as opposed to like a continuity issue. Like, I definitely think the writers knew what they were doing. This episode starts pretty shockingly with Addie finding a note in her locker written by Zach. She catches him in the act, and it's pretty much a secret admirer letter. I don't know what happened with Zach and that other girl, but I guess we're just moving on past that. So yeah, this is kind of dramatic because obviously your best friend writes you a love letter. Like, I feel like things can never go back to being the same. So this already starts with a pretty anticipated beginning. We learn pretty quickly that this is essentially the Addie pity episode. Gina and Zach essentially team up to cheer Addie up after the whole breakup situation, even though she doesn't really appear that sad or distraught. And the fact that she's already jealous over Jake Behari, I feel like personally, I'm not really worried about her romantic life at this point. So she gets a letter from a secret admirer, and she just kind of laughs it off. Like, Addie doesn't really seem like she wants to jump into anything new, but Gina and Zach are pretty insistent that she's going through something right now, that she needs help. And I always find these types of episodes really funny. So Zach ends up writing a note to Addie to kind of cheer her up, make her think that somebody's still crushing on her, and actually puts in like really depressing poetry here. He says that he created a whole perfect character to have written these notes that's a Sagittarius and not necessarily him, okay? That doesn't go super well because Addie kind of mocks this poet and is like, I don't even know if I want to be with this person.
Hey, that is great imagery. Not to mention wordplay. I mean, most people would kill for a secret admirer with those skills.
But then Gina steps in and is like, you gotta do this better. She writes a note with like a really cheesy pickup line, and Addie also laughs at that. It even comes up in class and she like openly mocks it.
Girl, You are hotter than a sunburn.
It's so funny how insecure Zach and Gina get when their love letters are critiqued. Like, how is that fair at all? This is actually really funny. Principal Brandywine refers to a secret admirer as an unidentified, flirty observer, which is actually kind of stalkery when you think about it, but it's funny that it's like the definition of a UFO. I can't believe that this character says that. That's actually kind of hilarious. Addie essentially is like, okay, I'm gonna figure out who's been writing these notes.
I'm gonna go shake down some 6th graders. There is no way anyone our age could have written notes that awful.
And that leads us to where the cold open started, where we see that Zach is writing all these notes. Immediately, red flag for Addie. She's like, oh my god, what do I do? And kind of feels betrayed by her best friends in kind of a sad way, because it's like, clearly they're just trying to help. Like, why do we have to feel bad for them? Crazy, weird subplot. Addie feels lonely and alone, so she actually gets the iguana from the classroom and it escapes, which is like, I don't know why that has to be like the big negative part of the episode for her. Addie and her friends kind of make up because obviously they had good intentions. It's very sweet. But then she learns there was an actual secret admirer leaving notes, and it was like this much younger kid. And it's kind of sweet because she gives him advice that's like, hey, you don't have to be in a relationship. Like, enjoy the things in your life. And oh, okay. That was really deep for no reason. She ends up just like shortly dismissing him and is like just happy being single, which is a great end to an episode. I feel like Addie, Gina, and Zach, their friendship is like the central point of this episode, like being honest and like not trying to pity your friends for no reason. Kind of reminds me of the White Lies episode from season 1, but this one's a lot more tactfully done. But yeah, the episode kind of resolves and things feel a lot more back to normal. It took us forever to get Addie back to square one after all this Randy drama and the Jake Behari situation. It's nice that Jake isn't in this episode because we actually give her a little bit of breathing room and show that she's like almost more comfortable, independent than she is with this relationship. So yeah, all around good episode. And that's when we transition to our last normal episode of this season before our 2-part finale. So let's get into that. Episode 13 of season 2 is called The Last Day of 7th Grade. And yep, you've heard it. This is the final normal episode before a 2-part season finale. Something that I'm gearing myself up toward. They go pretty all out in this episode. I would say this is the wackiest cold open I've ever seen in Unfabulous. The Last Day of 7th Grade starts out with this horror movie where Addie is being cornered by some group of people that they will not let us see. She's defended by Jake Behari, which is even more questionable. And then we go back into current time where things actually are just as messed up as before. She finds out this kid has been like completely covered in food on the floor, and this is like a horror movie.
Shaving cream balloons.
There's even like a title that says like the following events. And it's just, it feels like a Criminal Minds episode, to be honest. So all the 7th graders are being targeted by these 8th graders with shaving cream balloons, which I didn't even realize was a thing. It's kind of creative though. So the 7th graders are like, we kind of have to team up to make sure we don't get destroyed, which is kind of depressing. Like the last day of 7th grade just happens to be this like survival of the fittest. Meanwhile, Addie is trying to actually admit to Jake Behari that she has feelings for him. It's actually really important that she does this before they hit 8th grade, but that's not going to happen if they keep getting attacked by these balloons. Maris is kind of a jerk in this episode because she goes behind all the 7th graders' backs after, you know, bringing them all together, by the way. You think she's having a good episode, actually working with the 7th graders to survive, but nope, that's not what's happening. She then is cornered by the 8th graders. It's funny that they still have the frog suits from a couple episodes earlier.
What were you thinking when you designed these cheerleading outfits?
Well,
look at us. We look like hideous mutant girl frogs.
Literally just one by one, it's everybody getting attacked by this shaving cream bomb of sorts. We actually acknowledge that Addie broke up with Randy Klein and now he's on the market. Okay, that's a fun reference too. And Zach and this girl from a couple episodes ago are still together. Aw. So they're actually maintaining their relationship. So while Addie is focused on trying to get to Jake, this whole shaving cream thing gets completely in the way. And time begins to run out for her to actually talk to him. He's about to go away for the summer in which they would neither of them see each other again. Kind of a really big ramp up. So Jake Behari and ends up defending Addie when all the 8th graders are about to attack her. This leads to the perfect opportunity for her to tell him she likes him. But instead, the two just sit signing each other's yearbooks, and I don't think she's ready to admit it to him. She doesn't want to ruin the friendship, so she ends up kind of cowarding out and letting it go. Gina and Zach come over later, only to find out that he actually pretty much wrote a love note to her in her yearbook.
I was the Darth Vader you kissed in the closet on Halloween?
What? So she inevitably almost lost the opportunity to be with him, and he asked her out. Wow, that's kind of a crazy way to end the last day of 7th grade. So Addie realizes that maybe she did miss her biggest chance ever. If anything, she has to undo this mistake. So she runs off to find Jake Behari, only to see that he's going away to Canada for the entire summer. All this crazy high stakes plot going on in the form of a horror movie. It's just so wacky for Unfabulous. I like that they play with genres to a point where it's almost like so confusing to follow, but that is the feelings you have in 7th grade. Like, so much in school is so political. It feels like Ned's Declassified in that sense, but it's more grounded in actual feelings. But yeah, the episode ends on Addie running after the car that Jake drives away in, and it's sad to say that she does not meet up with him by the end. It ends on a cliffhanger, but that's where it gets interesting, because we finally get to the season finale, the 2-part episode called The Perfect Moment. To me, the Perfect Moment episode of Unfabulous just feels super awesome. It definitely feels like a cinematic experience, like they took this seriously at Nickelodeon, made sure that it felt like a TV movie, because this isn't just an ordinary episode. A lot of the themes and ideas that we started with the 2nd season of Unfabulous with get heavily challenged by this finale in a really interesting way. It almost feels like a full road trip movie that I can't believe I missed when I was growing up on Nickelodeon. To recap, a lot of things happened this season. It was Addie forming a relationship with the most popular guy at school, Randy Klein. They pretty much get really close together. Their relationship blossoms through trying to get information about each other. Addie's raging jealousy. She starts turning against her friends, but even ends up not being with Randy, only to go back to Jake Behari once again. A lot of stuff ramped up and ramped back down for Addie, and she realized that she didn't want to actually be with him for him. So now that she wants to be with Jake, things are a lot more important. Since they actually had an opportunity to connect where Jake admitted to her that he liked her through his yearbook signature, which, by the way, crazy relevant to 7th grade. I can't even get into it. Now Addie is dealing with the fact that she didn't get to open up back to him, which I find ridiculous. But she had a crazy last day of 7th grade, so we're gonna let her slide on this one. We start out the episode with her really regretting the fact that she couldn't get to him on time. Time jumps to the end of summer because Addie is actually working with her dad at the skate park. Zach's hair is a lot more froofy than we've ever seen it before.
It's my new summer due. I gotta be free.
But it's cool because it actually shows the time jump in action. We have a little catch-up segment when all the friends are at Juice, where we learn that Addie's actually been trying non-stop to contact Jake.
Hey, Jake. I hate to bother you while you're in Canada. Hey, Jake. I hate you.
And it seems like he's avoiding her calls, but really he's just not getting back to her or having access to his phone, which, oh my gosh, can you imagine nowadays not having access to your phone? No, wouldn't happen. It's really depressing because Addie ends up finally getting a hold of Jake's cell phone, and it turns out another girl answers it. Uh-oh. So it's like he found somebody else already. This is really depressing for Addie because clearly she spent all this time pining after him and he's already moved on. After 3 months, that's not cool, Jake. Come on. Addie and Gina learn that Jake is attending this wedding with this girl, and it's in Chinatown.
Forget it, Jake. It's Chinatown.
Which is, I guess, far from that. I don't know the correlation with where these girls' school is and everywhere else, whatever. And they decide that, hey, we have to show up and actually confront Jake and see if they're actually together, which is fair. I definitely think Addie has a good point to best her feelings. Meanwhile, they don't know how to get to Chinatown, how they would possibly get there since they don't drive, except, their brother Ben does. Ben doesn't really want to go at first until we learn that his girlfriend is going to be going there for whatever reason, with a new boyfriend or something. So they try to hitch a ride with him. So everybody has this mission. They want to go to Chinatown.
Chinatown is a fantastic melting pot of history and culture.
and tables full of tin socks for $1.
Parents can't know, so we have to add more stakes to the fire. So they're out to go on their anniversary dinner. Meanwhile, Zach, Gina, and Addie are dressed up ready to crash a wedding with Ben. And this is where the movie like really feels like a movie. They jump into the car and it's time to head on down, but the car breaks down. Classic sign that this is going to be a road trip adventure. For everybody born after 1990, this is a very particular type of car that's actually really hard to drive. And they went over this in a season 1 episode with Ben trying to learn and he just couldn't. So it's funny that it's gone full circle in this special to have them not be able to get to Chinatown because of this.
Ben, you have to shift.
No! I feel good like this.
You can't drive all the way to Chinatown in first gear. It's bad for the engine.
The scariest scene to me is when Gina and Addie actually arrive at Chinatown. They want to get information from some strangers, but they're betting on animals. Yeah, racing animals. And apparently they won't give them the information unless Addie kisses the turtle. Okay, I don't know why these grown men are trying to get this like 14-year-old girl involved in this, but fine. Meanwhile, Ben is confronting this guy that's actually with his girlfriend from Juice. He's actually really threatened by him. So the two get into a fight. Meanwhile, we have a little side plot where Gina actually meets this like really quirky waiter and they end up having a crush on each other, and it's very sweet because it's like the first genuine relationship I feel like they've formed. Meanwhile, the parents are still on the date. We really don't have to get into that too much. That's not really what's going on. And Ben is trying to impress this girl by appearing more like an adult, so he tries to get a tattoo, which this guy is 17, guys. This is an illegal act. So while he's getting a tattoo, Gina and Addie finally find the wedding that Jake is attending. They put on probably offensive garbs to disguise themselves and actually get into the party, which is kind of quirky. I definitely think that's funny to have happen in such a big event like this. Meanwhile, Ben is getting arrested for the fact that he had a tattoo at such a young age, which I don't know if you would arrest the person getting it. Like, the kid's 17. And Zach is just trying to save this lobster from this restaurant. I don't know what his plot is, and he runs into Addie and Ben's parents, which causes a lot of problems that do not need to happen. The cop from earlier in the series comes back. It's Principal Franklin from iCarly, and he's the one who takes Ben to jail. It's nice to see the consistency of the police force in the Unfabulous universe. With all of this stuff going down, guys, I am so stressed for everybody. It's cool that they have so many callbacks to earlier episodes and season plot points because it really makes the show a lot more genuine. Addie actually gets a moment with Jake, and it's really sweet. They didn't get a chance to have a full conversation, but we are pretty much aware that he is single. He's not actually with his ex like Addie had thought earlier, so things might actually work out for the two until Addie gets a phone call that her brother is in jail. So now Addie has to come up with a decision to either help Ben in jail or go through with Jake Behari. And if this were real life, I don't think at all this character would go through for Ben. Like, I get it. Like, it's a morally correct thing to do, but given how driven she is to confront Jake Behari, there's no way in my mind I believe she would give this up. But hey, she does. She's a good person. She goes to help her brother, but unfortunately they can't afford the bail. So now we have a new problem, and it's not Jake Behari, which, if you know me, I think that's a really good experience. Like, it doesn't have to all be about this guy. They run into Mary Ferry and the nerd, so it's cool that everybody at school is coming into the plot somehow. Like, that makes it feel more like a movie too. They realize the best way to get money is to go back to those gambling guys earlier that were making the pets race. Crazy. And then they finally make Zach's plot relevant to this entire special with the lobster. So yeah, Zach bets the lobster. If they win, they'll get like 20 times like what they originally set out to make. And of course, all these like grimy old adult men that are like betting on this stuff don't know how to say no and are big gamblers, so they go through with it. And of course, they come out on top in this epic race between pets, which by the way is illegal. I think you're not allowed to pit animals against each other for money. I think there's an issue with that somewhere. But this whole event in this like arena little area in Chinatown does feel like a super special experience, so I'm pretty happy about that. Meanwhile, Ben's rotting in jail. We always have to get to the Ben plots like last because they're the least interesting to me, but this kind of makes sense. So he is confronted with the guy he tried to beat up, and they have a conversation about this girl, and Ben Ben kind of learns that maybe she's too old for him, and this guy almost cares about her more. And that's like a very like relevant plot line to be like, look at somebody and be like, okay, not compete over this girl, but actually like acknowledge that maybe I don't know enough about her and that this might not work out for me, because this guy clearly respects her a little bit more. So Ben actually decides to purposely step back and allow the two to date because that's just the right thing to do. And I think that's a really good message to go out with. Meanwhile, Addie definitely believes she still has a chance to get back with Jake, so she runs all the way back to the wedding for one last attempt. But nope, he's not there. The entire wedding is over. Tina gets to reconnect with the guy she kind of has a crush on, which is nice for her. Addie is left in the dark. She ends up seeing a cell phone ring in a trash can and learns to be Jake's phone, which is cool because the girl Jake was with earlier threw away his phone so they couldn't talk to Addie. And this moment just makes such a big difference because it turns out that they both were trying to seek out each other, but everything was getting in their way, including Ben. Literally Ben having to post bail. So Addie ends up doing everything right in the end and finally reconnects back to Jake. And yes, they have this really sweet moment in the alley where they finally connect and say they like each other, ending in the perfect moment, the kiss. Yeah, season 2 ends with Jake and Addie finally getting a kiss, and everything is completely resolved. This whole out-of-town adventure into Chinatown with street thugs and driving and jail, and like, there's just so much happening in this special.
I'm looking for a wedding. Do you know where this is?
What you seek cannot be found where you are searching.
The parents end up figuring out exactly what happened, and nobody gets off scot-free, but who cares because Addie and Jake are together. The moral of the story is you could break any law you want as long as you end up with the person you want to be with. No, I don't actually think that. I do think that it's important to do the right thing, and that sometimes doing the right thing will lead to bad circumstances, and you just have to pay the price, which she does. Addie and Ben start having to work a lot harder at their dad's shop to learn their lesson that they can't defy their parents like that, because they really can't. Although Zach, I feel like, was the most involved with the parents' plot. Like, theirs was the least interesting in what was going on, but at least we got that little lobster race sequence. I thought that was necessary. So yeah, Addie and Jake are officially together. The last day of 7th grade already happened, and the first day of 8th grade is about to happen. So we have this really cool in-between moment with all of this stuff going on. And just like that, we finish the 2nd season of Unfabulous, and wow, that was a crazy ride we just went on together. Going from Addie's relationships back to her obsession with Jake Behari, having her music intertwined with her really complicated decisions she has to make, especially when it comes to like her and Gina, her and Zach, and then just like learning when it's appropriate to lie to your friends and work with your friends. And like there was just a lot of lessons learned in this season that I thought were like actually a lot more genuine to what it was like to be a 7th grader. And having it end with Jake and Addie actually getting together felt like the perfect finale of any show that if you were in 8th grade, like you just wish this was your ending. I know I did. I was very surprised when relationships didn't work out the same way sitcoms did, where it's like you didn't like build up to something and finally get that first kiss, when really in reality, things are a lot messier than that. You know, like you could always like somebody, they might not like you back. There might be like different things you learn about yourself or other people. All of this is a crucial part of the 7th grade experience, and how they reflected it was just so well done, especially since Addie's character is so flawed, having to deal with like all this jealousy, all this overprotectiveness. Like Addie has some really dark sides that we see in this season, and honestly it's just such a fun and rewarding time. So yeah, 2nd season of Unfabulous, great job. 15 episodes of fun. I highly recommend them. Or I would just recommend you watching my video summarizing them, because they do have a lot of like boring elements where I feel like since they weren't like Drake and Josh or Ned's Declassified level quite yet, like it was less reliant on comedy. So they just genuinely had good story moments. Funny, but, you know, it didn't end up being the entertainment I wanted it to be. All around, though, good watch, and Nickelodeon, good job for even putting this out. Like, these are some really cool episodes to have watched as a kid, especially so related to what you're going through. Now we just watch TikToks and hear people rant about what they went through at our age, but this was kind of like a show not tell era, where stories actually did dictate how we took our experiences out of 7th and 8th grade. I'm just happy I have this like little time capsule able to show me the way. Thank you guys so much for watching yet another great recap of Unfabulous, and I will see you guys in the 3rd season soon.
Why am I still singing?